Charles Dickens was a man of letters, not only one of the giants of Victorian literature but also a former journalist. And right now, he'd be turning in his grave if he'd seen what the props department had done in a new biopic, centered around the time he wrote A Christmas Carol. A publicity shot for the film, titled The Man Who Invented Christmas, shows actor Dan Stevens, playing Dickens, holding a newspaper from the 1840s with a huge headline on the front page of a broadsheet, coupled with editorial copy. However, newspapers from that era were not designed this way. For much of the 19th century, the front pages would be filled with tightly packed adverts alone, all in a very small type size. Scroll down for video. Historical inaccuracy. A publicity shot for a new biopic about Charles Dickens, titled The Man Who Invented Christmas, shows actor Dan Stevens, as Dickens, holding a newspaper from the 1840s with a huge headline on the front page, coupled with editorial copy. The howler was spotted by Bob Nicholson, a specialist in Victorian history. For the most part, 19th century newspapers were not designed like the one shown in the new Dickens film. Instead, front pages would be filled with tightly packed adverts alone, pictured. The design howler was spotted by Bob Nicholson, who specializes in Victorian history. It's not as if I am furious, but Dickens was a journalist. Newspapers are very much part of his world. If one film is going to get it right, it should be one about Dickens. Drive Nicholson, a senior lecturer in history at Edge Hill University, Lancashire, told The Times. Taking to Twitter to vent his frustration, he wrote, "I have just watched the trailer for the new Dickens movie. I am not usually bothered by inaccuracies in historical dramas, but I'd like to politely request that filmmakers stop putting massive headlines on Victorian newspapers." To help clarify his original tweet, Drive Nicholson also posted this one, concerning the evolution of newspaper headline sizes. What the Dickens? The acclaimed Victorian novelist, and former journalist. Drive Nicholson's remark clearly struck a chord with lovers of historical accuracy, with his tweet garnering in excess of 11,000 likes. One commenter, Kenneth W., responded, "This is one of my pet hates too, along with modern fonts on signage and handbills in period dramas. Ripper Street was doing this a lot, as well as newspaper thing, hence stopped watching." Meanwhile, one wag wrote, "What about the Victorian Sun? Did the ladies on P3 show their ankles, or go all the way up to their knees?" In reaction to his tweet, movie prop designers said that although they make suggestions to directors as to how papers would have looked, they were sometimes overruled since a visual cue helped to move the narrative along. By Brian Veer for the Daily Mail. With Dan Stevens as Charles Dickens, Jonathan Pryce as his feckless father, Christopher Plummer as Scrooge, and Miriam Margolyes, Simon Callow, Miles Jupp and Bill Patterson in supporting roles, expectations might verge on great for this film about the writing of A Christmas Carol. Alas, those great expectations are mostly dashed.